Okay, assalamu alaikum. Okay, so I decided to make a video or a couple of videos on how to learn Arabic for people who have been trying and struggling and see that they are putting the time, but it's not happening. Also, this could be for someone who's also learning English. If you have a family member who's taking English classes somewhere and they might need some outside practice. So um, this is some like I guess research over time that people have found you know helpful to learn. So I am going to talk a little bit about the goal behind this video. Um, so just enjoy the photography. It's nothing like too specific. I just like the winter theme. So yeah, enjoy. So I am gonna be talking about grammar and vocabulary um, as one of the objectives. Also gonna talk about how you can organize your learning um, journey, and I'm gonna talk about some examples of people that I've met and like successful and unsuccessful trials they've had learning. I only have been around people learning Arabic and English, so I can talk about these examples. Um, and then I'm going to break down the skills. So they are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So I'm going to try to make this video short and just talk about listening and what seems to work sometimes or most of the time. So first of all, what do you think listening skills are? Um, you'll notice if you ever get interested in language training or teaching that people talk about listening as a skill, like a work skill or a social skill. But in terms of like learning a language, we're talking about comprehension. So, can you understand what you're hearing? Um, Listening has different purposes and locations. So, um, I'll talk about the purposes a bit down the down the slide. But for locations, can you think of places where you really need to listen? These could be like, in your house. If you have someone who's speaking in the language that you're trying to learn, you want to understand what they're saying. And then I think of places like airports and official places where you get things done. You really need to understand what the person is saying, not just hear letters and things like that. So, and sometimes you can see the speaker, sometimes you can't. So, I'm going to talk about activities later where you are actually there, you can see the person's mouth and stuff like that. If it's like a family member, brother or sister, so you can, it's okay for you to watch them as they're speaking, and that will give you cues and stuff. But sometimes you're listening over the phone or other things where you can't see the speaker. Um, the difficulties come especially when people don't really talk the way words are written in dictionary. So they contract, they say gonna instead of going to. And in Arabic, people speak really, really fast sometimes, or they say things in their own like accent. So these can be like difficult to grasp too quickly. Um, there are conventions, so like there's a lot of repetition, which is good because if you are trying to learn, for example, how to make orders over the phone in Arabic or something, you're going to start with greetings and then, or if you're listening to something, You're going to hear the same thing repeated, like thank you, thank you, thank you, or please, 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 or like if someone is giving a longer talk, they have cues to like transform from one section to another. So that's good. Like you'll learn, these skills. Um, Now, I mentioned purposes before. So sometimes the purpose is just to learn like the parts of the language, not like the actual full message. So take a minute and see how many letters do you know from your target language or from Arabic in this case. So there's 28 letters ish. And the more you've practiced hearing them, the more you'll recognize them, and then your brain will go on to try to understand the message. But if there are sounds that you don't know, then we need to start there. So yeah, you train yourself in the beginning to hear the sounds. If you don't understand the sounds, then maybe it will be hard to like get the whole picture. Also, like in like people's like ups and downs when they're talking, like their volume goes up, their volume goes down, their stress on some words goes up, goes down. So this requires training as well, because you can listen to someone and someone next to you could be like, oh my God, they're angry. And you'd be like, oh, how'd you figure that out? Because they can figure out like their tones and things like that. Also, like after you've listened for a while and did some practice, like you'd be able to predict what someone's going to be talking about based on how they start their talk or where you are, basically. So when you go to an airport and you're going to listen to announcements, you're not going to listen to, I don't know, a marketing um, message. Well, you never know in this time and age, but you will probably listen to instructions. So yeah. Oh, this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest issue, is that if you are like beginning to understand something and the messages are way too long for your brain to like catch up to or process, you'll get tired, because your brain is always trying to figure things out 24/7. So uh, be careful not to like jump ahead, because you'll get tired. And what happens when you get tired is your brain's like, oh, this is difficult, X on this activity, we're not going to learn this. And then motivation goes down. So just realize that you do get tired after some time. Um, this I'm going to talk about in one of the next slides, is that um, if you're like, if you're going to seriously learn language, then you need to prepare what you're doing for the day. Yes, like you'll need a coach sometimes or a teacher, but as an adult, you can learn by yourself. You can have listening material prepared for the day. So I'll explain that in a bit. Okay, here is something that we don't usually remember to do when we're teaching listening, is we could give so much listening material, but we don't stop to ask the student or the person learning to respond to that listening, or to even try to copy it, or anyway, do something with it so that it's actually a learning experience and it's not just, a waste of time. So if you're learning alphabets, then repeat it. If it's a message, respond to it, things like that. Or taking notes and things like that. So we said that if you go with the pace that your brain is used to learning, you will be motivated to continue, because your brain will soak it in, and that success will lead to another success and another success. So yeah. Imagery. This is something that I work on a lot in like research, is that if your brain can picture what you're saying and the situation, that will help a lot. So you train your brain to pop images as you hear things. So that's a training in and of itself. And the more specific your images get, the better you can utilize this activity or skill. Slow down. So what happens when you're learning in a class form? They're trying to get through a curriculum, so you are like going with the pace of like the curriculum. It's not the other way around. And I would say it's better to hear the same thing 50 times than to hear 50 different types of messages or listenings, literally. And you'll be frustrated in the beginning to slow down, but slowing down really, really helps. And it will make you like notice so many things when you slow down. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, so depending on our age, there's a lot of theories on like how learning languages change over time, but just know that it's a bit different. So if you're trying to teach your children how to listen or how to learn a language, then they have to be more engaged with what they're listening to. So it needs to be in a rhyme or a song or simpler topics. I don't believe in like babying children. Like I think they should listen to um like substance and good material. It doesn't have to be like extremely babied stuff, but it will be a different level from an adult. And you usually have to um, contribute a lot and take control of their learning, as opposed to an adult who I could say, hey, listen, just do these activities during the day by yourself, and they could do it. Um, so sometimes we listen to learn, and sometimes we listen for meaning. If you try to do both as you're learning, again, you'll get tired, you'll get fatigued, you'll lose motivation. So just relax and like know that your goal is to just get through that listening and to understand that listening only. So if you're doing stuff to learn like the alphabets, just focus on that. Don't worry about, oh my god, I still don't understand what everyone is saying around me. Doesn't matter. And then when you're listening for meaning, only focus on that listening. Don't say, oh my god, like I listened to this one I don't know, podcast or this thing, but I close it and I still don't understand people around me. Well, if people use the vocabulary that you just heard, you will understand a percentage of what they're saying. This is something that is fun to practice. So sometimes when I use YouTube with students, I slow it down completely and then we work our way up. So it's fun. And as we know, some people talk very, very fast, and it's not us who don't understand. It's just that they are speaking too fast. So it is a skill that we have to work on. I suggest like instead of going through like a book with random topics, to just pick the same topic and try to listen to the same theme or topic with higher vocabulary. So let's say you're into health and you want to, I don't know vocabulary regarding health or something that's in your job that's really important for you to learn in another language. You start with the same topic just with basic vocabulary listening, and then maybe a discussion, maybe then a lecture, and then maybe a research. So it's the same topic, but you're going higher up in the levels, and then hence you're going higher up in the vocabulary and grammar. So you'll be an expert in one topic, which is really good, as opposed to like knowing bits and pieces of so many different things, and then it's just super disorganized. Yes, so definitely repetition. And if this gets boring, what I find that over time we need to stop like getting bored with it. Like it's a skill to just in like learn to enjoy something because you're gaining something out of it in the long term. So it might be boring and painful in the beginning, but it will really, really help then to just jump from one topic to another. Also, we do something called periodic repetition, so that's less boring. So you just listen to the same thing at the same time every week, for example. There's research on that. I really don't know about the details of it, but they say, oh, if you listen to something every 4 hours or 8 days or something. So, yeah. So you don't cram, you just know that that message is going to come again at some point during the week or something. And so here's a suggestion, suggested activity. You can jot this down in a paper or you can print it if you want. So if you're really serious about learning like a language, then break it down into skills. And one of the skills would be listening skills. So this can be your listening skill tracker. So you listen to something in the morning and vary the topics. Don't make it all really heavy material. So in the morning, maybe you listen to something funny, like, I don't know, comedy or something funny, I don't know, to keep you excited and going. And then in the afternoon, you listen to something more serious or educational. In the evening, maybe something relaxing. And I don't know, you know, all these videos now that like breathing and I don't know, all these relaxation videos where you're actually listening, like it's a listening skill and, you know, resource. Um, so what you want to do is vary like the inputs, and then you can just kind of tick here when you've done something. So this is just like having a, I don't know, daily planner, but it's, you have daily planners for learning. So then that way you are keeping track. Um, if you actually have time, then you could make another box and put your what you're learning. So if you heard new vocabulary, new sounds, or even noticed like intonation when people, you know, crack jokes, it's not going to be the same as like, you know, intonation when you're watching or listening to something serious. So, and there's so many resources, like you have videos, you have podcasts, you have recorded tapes. And because I'm sending this to like my Muslim friends, you know, the libraries in the masjid will have like lectures. Like I know they'll probably be like CDs and tapes, but hey, why not do something historical? um, and then overnight, like you can listen to adhkar, like the you know, the adhkar of like the nighttime, like that. And then I saw videos where you're learning language subliminally. So you put something, you play something, and you kind of just go to sleep over it. Depending on what kind of sleeper you are, this can work for people who sleep easy. But no, this doesn't work for me personally. I like the idea; it's kind of creative, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe this can just be like left as a relaxation time so that you wake up the next morning and you know you can go through this. And yeah, so if you do, you know, something like this where you're tracking your listening skill, you'll get somewhere. You'll definitely get somewhere with your language learning. And to apply some of these things or think about them as you are working on this. And yeah, I think I'll stop here. Okay, masalama. Talk about the other things next time.